Thanks for taking some time out of your busy days to spend it with us here at ZeeVee and AMT for this iSeries webinar. We're going to get going in about 4.5 minutes, it looks like. So it gives you a little bit of time to grab a cup of coffee or whatever's your poison, and we'll be back with you. So just hang in there, and we'll be starting the webinar. We got a bunch of folks signing in as we speak, so let them get settled, and then we'll start. Thank you. Giving you a little bit of a countdown. We got a couple more minutes. Lots of folks sign into these webinars right at the last moment, so we're just going to give folks a couple of minutes to sign in. And I see we got some of our folks from jolly old England is on the webinar. So, hi Mark, hi Rob. Glad you could join us. Just hang in there, and we'll be right back with you. You know, I always kind of laugh at this when I do one of these webinars, because I can see all the attendees, you know, and I remember back, if you're as old as I am, as old as dirt, there used to be a TV program called Romper Room, and the woman on the show there would, you know, I see Sally, and I see this one, and I see that one, and, you know, so here I am saying, I see Kim, and I see Karen, and I see Bob, and I see Albert. You have to know Romper Room to know what I'm talking about, but it always kind of cracks me up. So anyways, once again, thank you for taking some time out of your busy day to attend our iSeries webinar hosted today by ZeeVee and AMT, Advanced Media Technologies, down in Florida. And we did today, and they're incredible. Okay, I guess Christine lost it somehow. I have the lovely Christine here. She's our marketing director at ZeeVee, and she's riding shotgun on this IP Stagecoach today, so she's monitoring it to make sure that the video and the audio is working. So anyways, yeah, thanks for joining us, and it was well received, and a lot of information is being passed, and at the end of the webinar you can ask questions. Over in the little box over to the right of your screen, there's a little box that says questions. Any questions you have, just type them in there, and at the end of the webinar we will answer them. We're also doing a series of surveys during this webinar, something new that we're trying, getting feedback from you folks as to how we can make these webinars better, how we can make our product better, where you see it being used, etc. So you'll see that during the webinar. So let's quickly run through the agenda. We're going to do something on our ZeeVee qualifications. What qualifies ZeeVee to be in this business? We're going to talk about IP markets. Who needs this? Where do you sell it? How do you sell it? Melanie, who's the director of our technical support group, is going to take you through using Maestro to set up iSeries product. And then Rob with AMT is going to talk about, what do you do at the end of the cable? What do you do at the end of the wire? Set-top boxes and middleware to run this whole thing. And lastly, questions and answers. So what are our qualifications? Well, ZeeVee's been in business now about 8 years. And back when the world went digital, the first digital modulators were some $17,000 to $20,000 for one channel. And ZeeVee, the engineers here and the folks that started the company, saw an opportunity to create a really good digital modulator for an awful lot less money. Our first modulator that came out 8 years ago, the ZeeVee 250 Pro, was about $2,500, and that was a revolutionary product that put us on the map, and we've been developing and building digital modulation ever since. We're a very innovative company. We look at the industry, we look at what's needed, and we spend a lot of time talking to our dealers. What do you want? What do you need to make your lives easier, to make the distribution of video easier? And we respond to that. We now have worldwide experience. We have an office in Denver, an office in London, and our main office here in Boston. We sell product just about everywhere in the world: South Africa, the Middle East, Europe, Russia, Canada, America, Mexico. We're worldwide in our scope at this point. All of our product is designed and built in the United States. This has increased our reliability amazingly. When we first started the company, we had some of our product being built in Asia, and it was a little bit involved. Plus, it was far away. It took a couple of weeks for our engineers to visit the factory. If you needed something changed quickly, it was always involved. Now the product's built right in New Hampshire, just a few miles. And that's also allowed us to offer a 5-year warranty. Because the product is so reliable, we QC every single piece as it comes down the line. We don't ship things that don't work. That's number one way to create a reliable product. We've been able to offer you a 5-year warranty now on all the products. So that's who we are. Now let's talk about the products for a moment. ZeeVee Pro. This is our limited channel count product. If you're building a system for digital signage, maybe 1 or 2 channels in a doctor's office or a dentist's office or whatnot, you might use ZeeVee Pro. Smaller form factor than our Series 2000 product, and a remote power supply. The power supply is remote. That gives you the opportunity, should something happen with a power spike or a lightning strike or whatever, and the power supply gets damaged, it's user replaceable. Very, very easy. That's the ZeeVee Pro product. HD Bridge 2000 is high channel count product, rack mountable. This is usually used in multiple dwelling units, hospitals, college dormitories, assisted living facilities, etc., where you might have 80, 90, 100, 150 channels being streamed all on a coax backbone. Both of these products are offered in composite, component, unencrypted HDMI, SDI, and now IP. And that brings us to our IP product. The ZeeVee Pro and the HD Bridge 2000 SDI now output IP along with QAM, digital QAM. And we also have a new category called Zyper 4K. This is a brand new product for ZeeVee. .600i, 800i, and the 2920 all output RF and IP MPEG-2 at the same time. Now, our emphasis was on picture quality on this series of products and not bandwidth efficiency. What does that mean? Well, MPEG-2 is going to give you a much better picture. We do have plans for some MPEG-4 product in the future, which will allow you to utilize your bandwidth a little more. Too. So right now the emphasis is on amazing picture quality. Resolution in, resolution out. Whatever you give us, we're going to send. So that just makes your life a lot easier. Now you have to be aware that a typical 1080p, 1080i stream is utilizing 20 megabits of information. So you're going to have to do your math when you design a system that's using IP video. At this point in time, depending on structure that you have in place, and we can help you with that, is going to limit the number of channels that you're going to be able to send over that structure. So what is IP suited for? Well, bulk distribution of high quality IP and RF video at the same time. And I'm going to show you that in a second. And once again, the infrastructure, the IP infrastructure, needs to be tailored for the bandwidth requirements. There's impact on latency. The encoders, the network, and the endpoints are going to influence latency. So that's another consideration. So you need to look at your bandwidth requirements, what you're going to do with the signal at the endpoint, and the impact on latency as you design these systems. I love this slide because it really shows clearly what's going on in an RF IP network. In this particular case, we have two satellite receivers, and they're using component to send their signal to a 2-channel ZeeVee Pro 620. That 620 is combined with an 820 through a simple combiner using coax to any number of television sets, any length of coax distribution. At the same time, we're taking two digital signage players through unencrypted HDMI into a ZeeVee Pro 820, and we're taking that through CAT cable to an Ethernet switch through set-top boxes to digital display panels. It really shows you how quite simple this whole system is, as long as you do your math, once again, for those considerations we just spoke about. So now we're going to do a quick poll. A lot. We program IGMP switches in our sleep, just enough to be dangerous, or very little. I'll give you a couple of seconds to get your answers in. And this really helps our marketing department, helps our engineering department, production, as to what we need to do to help you in your businesses. All righty. Let's move right along. So where is IP catching on? What are the opportunities? Broadcast has proven to be our #1 opportunity so far. We have a number of TV stations out on the West Coast that are updating their monitors in their studios to HD, and they wanted an IP and an RF solution. Our 2920 was perfect. SDI in, IP, and digital QAM output. Corporations obviously already have an infrastructure of CAT cable. It's a perfect opportunity to use to send IP. Hospitals, healthcare. Stadiums and arenas are an obvious opportunity for IP. They want the best video quality they can get, and we can offer it to them with the ZeeVee IP. And they also need digital RF to send to the luxury boxes, to the hot dog stand, other places within the stadium. And using either IP or our RF product, there's a tremendous amount of opportunities. Certainly multiple dwelling units, houses of worship, RV parks and campgrounds have been incredibly popular, where they want to convert their analog head end that they installed some years ago to digital. Health clubs and certainly restaurants are still an enormous part of our business. So what's the benefits? Well, you've future-proofed your installation. You've got a backbone of CAT cable, and whatever comes down the pike will most likely be able to be utilized over that infrastructure. Our products offer built-in EAS. It's called ZeeVee EAS, Emergency Alert System. This allows a headmaster in a school or somebody in a hospital, should there be bad weather coming or something, where you need to notify everybody that's watching a television set or a monitor that something's happening. Now we can send that EAS over all the screens internally. You're delivering video content to any display or PC, and that preserves your internet bandwidth. Sometimes you would have a situation where folks need to use the internet to access some of the information that you could simply stream to their display or PC and preserve the bandwidth on the internet. And one platform, one ZeeVee platform, is delivering both RF and IP video. And all of this gives the personnel a higher level of efficiency. So let's see what the poll response was. Okay, 27% of you said we program IGMP switches in our sleep. 55%, just enough to be dangerous, and 18% very little. So if I'm doing my math right, that's like 73% look like they could use a little more education and some help with some of these systems. And I'm just here to tell you that we're here to help. Our distributors like AMT are here to help. So if there is an opportunity, or you even think there's an opportunity for IP, give us a call. We most likely can help you out. And now I'm going to introduce Melanie. Melanie is the manager, director of our technical support group here at ZeeVee. Many of you, some of you, have probably already spoken with her. She's been with us since the beginning, or before the beginning of the company. And she really knows the product inside and out. And she's going to take you through the setup of our IP product. So Melanie, I'm going to give you the screen, and you can take it away.
Thanks very much, Roy.
It's all yours.
Excellent, thank you. Before we get started, I want to apologize a little bit for my voice. I'm getting over a cold, so I have a bit of a frog in my throat. Hopefully we can muddle through, though. What I'm gonna just cover real quickly is the configuration of the IP settings within our Maestro tool. If you're familiar with our RF products, you've probably already used the Maestro tool in general. The first thing I want to sort of point out is the IP address that you would use to log into Maestro doesn't need to have any relation to the IP address that you're going to actually stream video out of. You can easily have a direct connect into Maestro for configuration, just a single network cable from your laptop into the unit for configuration. Configure the IP info for streaming, and then plug it into your LAN to get that going. So they don't necessarily have to relate, and that's a question we get a fair amount on the support side. When you've logged into Maestro, what you will notice is that there is a new tab. You can see here it's the IP channel plan tab. This is only going to be available on those units that have IP capability, so the 600i, 800i, and 2920i. When you log in, you can go right to that IP channel plan. You'll see that each port has information associated with it, AV port 1 and AV port 2. These ports will be disabled by default. We are not going to automatically be streaming any kind of video out over IP. You have to specifically enable that before we'll start sending any video. The IP address information that needs to be configured for each one of these ports can be set one of two ways. You can either use a multicast address, which is what we're going to talk about first, or you can use a unicast address. Multicast is a grouping, a specific group of IP addresses that are set up and are designated as multicast, meaning that when it's going out over that IP address, any computer that's on the network that has as part of that network can subscribe to that stream. So as long as they know what the IP address is and the port is, anybody out there can subscribe to it and start viewing the audio and video. For unicast, it's a single point, so it's point-to-point basically. You're going to enter an IP address of the specific computer or the specific device that's going to be viewing that audio and video and getting that stream. So the first setting we have here is the multicast. So I've just entered a multicast IP address as well as an IP port. And the port just allows us to specify which port it's going to go out through. There are certain ports that are already dedicated to specific items. You want to make sure you avoid those ports so you don't have any conflicts. The thing I like to point out is within Maestro there is always the tooltip. So if you click into either of these fields, excuse me one moment. Sorry, little tickle. If you click into either of the fields, you'll get the tooltip that gives you some information about what's acceptable to enter there. Or if you click on the IP channel help button, and each one of the tabs has this little help button, it's always going to provide you some additional information. And one of the things it will tell you is what ports we recommend avoiding or staying above a certain port to ensure you're less likely to run into any kind of conflicts on that front. The other information here, name, long name, and rating, this is going to be the exact same information that's used on the RF side. If you make a change here, it's going to be applied to the RF channel plan as well. So the same exact information between the two pieces of the output. Make your changes, click apply, and we'll then be sending out that MPEG-2 stream over the Ethernet connection. The next slide is specific for a unicast. In this instance, the IP address that I entered was the IP address for my laptop specifically. So only my laptop would be the one that would be able to view that stream. I've set a port as well, enable it, click apply, and then my laptop would be able to log in or log onto that particular stream using something like a VLC player, which is the piece I'm going to cover next. And the VLC player is something we use on the support side for testing purposes. It's a very quick and easy way to verify that things are streaming as expected and on the IP that you believe you configured. VLC Media Player is a free download. We download it off of the internet. Click on Media and Open Network Stream, and it allows you to enter the URL where the stream is coming from. So depending upon how you have it configured, you're either going to set it up as a multicast, and I wanted to specify what that URL looked like. Excuse me one more moment. Sorry about that. What the URL looks like, because it's a little bit different than what you are typically used to. So you need to ensure that UDP:// is there, the @ symbol, the multicast IP address that you entered, colon, and then the port that was entered or configured in Maestro. And that's going to allow you, any computer running VLC with that information, to lock onto that stream. The unicast is a little bit different. You don't need to specify the IP address. It's just going to be that port number, because it's only going to be visible to that single IP address that you've entered into Maestro. Once you click OK with these configurations, the VLC player will just start playing that audio and video. So very pretty easy as far as the setup within Maestro is concerned. And I believe that that is all I have. So I hand it back to you, Roy.
Oh, great. Thanks, Melanie. And, hope that little cough you got gets better.
Thank you.
And here's poll question number 2. Let me get that for you. How important to your company's future is being capable of deploying video over IP networks? How important is all this stuff? Very important? Somewhat important? Not important? I'll give you a minute to vote. Again, thank you for doing this. I know we said there would be no test, but I guess this isn't a test, just a survey. Look at that. Like 100% of you voted. Wow. That's a record. All right, let's move right along. And now I'm going to introduce Mr. Rob Narzissi. Rob is the sales manager at Advanced Media Technologies down in Florida. Rob is one of our distributors. He helps us with a whole bunch of technical issues that we have around here a lot of times. And Rob, I'm going to give you the keyboard, and you can take it away. It's all yours.
Okay, thank you, Roy. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to touch base a little bit here on the Amino set-top boxes. These are a good device to use anywhere you want to decode the streams coming off of your ZeeVee encoders, that there's a TV and not a computer like the VLC that Melanie was showing you earlier. So let me get into the model numbers of the 2 primary boxes here. The A140 is a standard set-top design. There's quite a few of these deployed out in rural areas. Telephone companies use these to deliver television over their DSL networks. So that's primarily where this box is, and it can be anywhere in an office. It could be Velcroed on behind a desk or something like that as well. But it's a set-top type design. The input here is your Ethernet, so that will be connected to your network through a switch and a Cat5 cable, and then you'll connect to your monitor or television set through either the HDMI or through this proprietary DIN connector that there is a cable supplied with the box that breaks that out into component and composite connectors. There's also a channel 3 output, but these days I don't see a whole lot of people using that. The second model number I want to talk about is the H140. This is the hospitality version of the box. It's the same electronics inside, but it's in a hardened box, and these are really good for any location where it's in public and you don't want people messing with them or stealing them or anything like that. So they're really used quite a bit in hotel rooms to receive your video streams. And it's got a couple of other small features like the ability to interface with the TV and use a single remote to control both the TV and the set-top box. And that's a good point. The unit comes with a remote in the box, and a keyboard will be used for programming, and any standard USB keyboard can be used to program these boxes. I'll show you that a little bit later. When you're deploying an IPTV system, there's different levels of capability in the system that I want to talk about. The one thing that makes the Amino box very attractive to these type of applications is you can order the box with an Opera browser on the box for no additional charge. That basically makes the box operate almost like a web page. When you turn on the box, there'll be a URL, and you can simply type in the IP address that you're trying to decode, which is going to match the address that your ZeeVee encoder is streaming out on, and it will allow you to decode that stream and view it. You also have the ability to program multiple IP addresses and create a channel lineup that you can then channel up, channel down, or go directly to a channel. Very basic, similar to a QAM type system. The next step up from that would be to deploy an EPG server on your network. That server will have some special software on it that communicates with the Amino boxes. So if you ever wanted to change your channel lineup, you have one central point to make that change, and it will unilaterally make that across all of the Amino boxes. So that's the next step up, and it can come quite in handy if you have a lot of set-top boxes deployed throughout a large campus or something. Otherwise, you'd have to go to each box individually and make any changes there. And then the third level would be a complete middleware package, and that's sort of what that graphic is there on the right. This allows for a whole bunch more features, like video on demand, where you could use the remote to order a video that's played on a server. You can view different things like maps and amenities in the hotel, and view your folio for your checkout. All those types of things can be built into the middleware. There's a number of third-party middlewares out there that will work just great with the ZeeVee encoders and the Amino set-top boxes. And you know, you can look into that. They are tailored for the certain applications. Some of them are geared toward hospitality applications. Some are geared more toward an enterprise. Some are geared more toward digital signage. So I just wanted to give everybody a little bit of a taste of how to program these boxes, just to take a little bit of the fear out of it. By no means is this a complete tutorial. There is quite a bit of documentation, and we have an engineer here on staff that can guide you through these types of things. So just to give you an idea here, when you connect your keyboard to the Amino box, you press Alt-M simultaneously, and that will bring up the first management password menu. The first password is leaves, and that will get you to the next page that actually shows some of the settings. Now, by default, the settings are locked, so there is a secondary password that you'll need in order to make changes, and that password is snake. So you'll click on that browser on the left, and that password request will come up, and you press snake, and that allows you to go in and actually make changes. One thing that you may want to do initially, especially if you're setting this up in a lab or a test bench, if it's not connected to a real live network with a DHCP server, you'll want to disable DHCP on the set-top box so you can assign it a static IP address. Again, this is only if you're just connecting this to a very simple network with the encoders and a switch and the set-top boxes. And here, the last thing I want to show you is the channel manager. Within the Opera browser, there's a feature here that you can access by pressing Alt and C, and that allows you to type in the IP address of each channel. So for example, if you have 10 encoders that are streaming out on 10 different IP addresses, you simply type that into each one of those slots, and that becomes your channel number, starting at channel 1. And then the slot on the right, you can actually type in a description of the channel. Could be the name of the programmer or a description of what's on that channel. So you can see it's pretty simple to get started and using the Amino box to decode your IP streams. And I'll hand it back to Roy.
Oh, that's great. Thanks, Rob. And folks, don't forget, Rob and his team are available, and their contact information is on our website. And use them. All right. What is the poll response to question number 2? Very important, 57%. Somewhat important, 36%. And not important, 7%. Well, I hope the not important people still stick with our RF product, I guess. So anyways, well, that's very helpful. It just shows that folks are looking at IP and that it is going to be a part of their business. Okay. Poll question number 3. And this is the last one, I promise. How come I can't open the polls? Oh, hang on, folks. We got some technical difficulty here. There we go. We got it. See, Christine's here to help. Who do you see as early adopters in deploying IP video? Government, military, education, higher education, stadiums, corporate offices, healthcare. Just let us know who you think is going to be using, who are going to be the early adopters, who are folks that have been already asking you for IP video. Again, this will help our marketing department so we can market to these people and find you some business. Great. I'm going to close this one out, and we'll continue on with... So anyways, this webinar is being recorded, and it's going to be posted, they tell me, by tomorrow, and you'll be able to have the rest of your staff, or if you wanted to review it, you can look at it again. We'll send you results of the poll questions, along with links to downloads to the iSeries specifications, etc. Now, if you have a need, oh, and by the way, upcoming Zyper webinars. Again, stay tuned if you want to join us for our Zyper 4K webinars, which we'll be doing in the next few weeks. I highly recommend it. This is the technology and the type of product that really does decide what the future is going to look like in video distribution. There's just no question about it. 4K is coming on strong. Hey, by the way, I just heard on the radio as I was driving into work today on Black Monday, this past Monday, the #1 product that got sold was a Samsung 4K television. It was the #1 SKU count on Black Monday that got sold over the internet. That's pretty interesting to me. And how about this? Gifts. We love gifts. We love to give gifts. On December 7th, you're going to get an email that asks you to sign up for 12 days of ZeeVee. Every day we're going to draw somebody's name and we're going to send you a really neat gift. So be prepared for that. Be on the lookout for an email that'll ask you to sign up for 12 days of ZeeVee. This is an awful lot of fun, and you can win some really neat gifts, prizes. And here's our team. Sally, who some of you know because I can see who's on this call. She handles the East Coast. I handle the flyover country in Texas. And we got Paul out there on the West Coast. And if you can't get in touch with one of us and you need something, call George. George is one of those people that tends to kind of know everything that's going on everywhere. Over in jolly old England, we've got Rob Butterman. And Rob and Mark handle Europe and Great Britain and the Middle East and South Africa. They have quite a region. So they're available. In Canada, Chris Scudo, who's our Vice President of North American Sales, he also handles the Canadian market. And last, but by no means least, our amazing technical support group. We've increased the number of folks in the technical support group. We've extended the hours for folks on the West Coast. And if you've got an issue, please call us. Before you tear your hair out, call us. They've probably heard it before, and they probably have a solution that can get you out of harm's way in a nanosecond. So utilize our technical support group. Great folks to deal with, and they can help you. And here's something new that Christine added to the webinar. You can simply scan this little, what do they call it, a CP code, a QR code, and you can just send me an email. Send me an email, and I'll immediately send you a white paper that our engineering staff wrote on IP and how to deploy it, where it should be deployed, some of the considerations, etc. It's a fantastic piece, and I can send that to you. So all you got to do is just scan this and just send me an email, and I'll send that right off to you. So other than that, I just really want to thank Rob and Melanie and Christine for helping me put this webinar together. And let's see what we have for questions. All righty. Melanie, you still with us?
I am here.
Oh, that didn't sound too good.
Sorry.
Whoa. Anyways, quick question. HDMI, unencrypted HDMI, can they use encrypted HDMI and output that over IP and RF?
So the same rules are going to apply for HDMI encryption, whether it's RF or IP. We're using actually the same encoding for the IP that we do for the RF side. So if it is unencrypted HDMI, we'll be able to accept that and pass it along. But if it is encrypted, we are going to be limited and won't be able to do that. So there's no change on that front with the addition of IP. Understood.
Thanks. Great. And Rob, you still with us?
I am.
Oh, okay. Very quick question. I've got a facility with Cat5 cable. Can this IP run over Cat5?
Absolutely. It needs a network to run over it, so you may need to install some Ethernet switches and make a very simple network. But yes, that's exactly what we're talking about here, is utilizing Cat5 infrastructure to send the video.
Okay, great. And then the next question is, when is this available? It's available right now. The ZeeVee Pro products, ZeeVee Pro I, so it would be the 620i, the 610i, 810, 820i, are already shipping. We've been shipping them now for a number of weeks. And the 2920, which is our rack-mountable SDI input, also outputs IP. So they're available immediately through your distributors.
One clarification, Roy, one clarification there. There is still a 2920, which is RF only, and then a 2920i, which is the RF and IP. So they do, if they're looking for the IP, they need to specify that.
That's right. Thank you, Melanie. That's right, exactly. Yeah, you need to specify the 2920i if you need IP. So that's all that I've got. Wait a minute, one more. Oh, wait a minute, we have one more question here. Let's see. Does each 1080p IP stream to a client create 20 megabits of traffic? Yes, Melanie?
So potentially, yes, depending upon how the switches are set up. But each 1080p stream is going to be 20 megabits. So you should plan for that in your network. The way switches, if a switch is smart enough to know that there are certain areas that aren't receiving that, they may not pass it, But if that changes and something, you know, a client comes up on that segment of the network that is requesting it, megabits per.
All right. All right. And thanks, Jeff, for that question. I got one more. Albert asks, I would like to use an existing older 8-to-1 combiner. Will it work for ZeeVee Pro? When you're saying, I imagine you're talking about an RF combiner, and it will work as long as it has, if you're using upper channels on the ZeeVee product, it's 1 gig. So it depends on how old this combiner is. Some of the older combiners just don't have the frequency range that we would need, depending on what channels you're sending. So if you can find out how old the combiner is and what its specs are, we can answer that a little bit better for you, Al. But thanks for that question anyways. Any more questions coming in? I'm not sure how to answer this. Could you build a hotel head end with this? I don't know. Do we know, Melanie, whether this is allowed in hotels?
I am not sure, actually, as far as, I mean, I would assume it would be with an IP set-top box, I believe, and Rob might have a better input on that since I think he mentioned hotels as an option.
Yes, you could use it in a hotel. In order to abide by the encryption rules, you may need to also have a separate encryption server. And you know, someone like Verimatrix, they make a separate server that you can put on the network, and the Amino box has the ability to decrypt Verimatrix. So yes, you could build the head end, output the IP, deploy a Verimatrix server, and do it and follow all of the obligations as far as the programmers are concerned.
And then, of course, you would simply need a large enough network, a big enough network to handle all that, depending on how many channels you're going to send. It's an interesting question, and I'm sure that there'll be more information forthcoming on that as time moves on. So that's what we got. Again, thanks, Rob. Thanks, Melanie. Thanks, Christine. And to all you folks that took some time out of your day, thank you. We really, really do appreciate it. And again, any questions, give me a buzz, send me an email, and we'll help you out. Thank you. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.